Hey everyone, welcome to the Peach Basket episode 7. I think we're on 7 now.
Are we on 7? I don't know what episode we're on. It is
We should
November
maybe keep track of that.
the 2nd, though.
November the 2nd, though.
Second.
We just had Halloween. Capital T. Second with a capital T. Episode 7, lucky number 7. So I think this is going to be our best one yet. We don't have video this episode because I was lazy and didn't plug in the little camera to charge it. Whoops. Are you mad at me?
Jeez, Jolie.
Are you mad?
The viewer is mad.
Oh. I don't know who I'd rather have mad at me, you or the viewer.
I didn't make it plural on purpose.
So you're right next to me, so if you're mad at me, you can harm me. The viewer probably can't reach through the
Yeah, but like they
interweb.
can send stuff in the mail nowadays. No, they can't. The post is on strike. Any Canadians here?
Is this your stand-up routine all of a sudden? Are there any Canadians here? So comment below if you're a Canadian here, and then Steven has a joke to follow that. Oh, maybe we should. So I'm Joel, by the way. I think we introduced ourselves in the first episode, maybe. But maybe we should do that every episode. So I'm one of your hosts, Joel.
Steven?
Is the other host.
Yes.
And we're just a couple of East
I'm moving
Coast.
my mic, and it kind of makes a bad noise.
Why are you doing
when I do
that? Why are you doing that?
We're just a couple of East Coast boys.
Canadian boys that like basketball and like to talk about it. And this is our 7th time doing that whilst recording. There's some weird noises happening.
Yeah, we have the door open.
No, I think it's like in a different apartment.
No, I know it is, but it's because we have the door open.
Oh, okay. Jeez, man, let's not argue on the podcast. Hopefully the listeners at home can hear that. Probably some kids eating some Halloween candy, getting all hyper. So we going to talk about basketball, or are we just going to ramble about know-nothings?
We're going to talk about basketball.
Let's do it. Start the clock. So yeah, we usually have a clock for our subjects.
Weren't you going to put one on your phone?
Caller. Oh yeah, I am going to do.
This is organized.
Fill the air while I'm doing this, would you?
Okay, so what we're going to talk about first, once the timer's running, but I'm going to start talking about it before the timer's running, so make the timer slightly less long accordingly.
Whatever. It's 3 minutes starting now.
Michael Jordan
Shot clock.
commercial. So Joel told me about this commercial. I just quickly watched it before the show. He's just introducing a football game between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Dude, you just gave away the punchline of the commercial.
Hey, man.
No, sorry. Keep going.
But yeah, the point of the commercial was like he's kind of saying like, so 2 players, everybody's debating, they have the same number, like which one's better, and then like it's kind of like a bait and switch where he's actually talking about a football game, but obviously what he was like implying or like what people would be drawn into the commercial is like, oh, he's actually addressing, is he better than LeBron, or is LeBron as good as him, whatever, like
right.
And they kind of say like, oh, they need to go head to head to find out, like have a one-on-one game. So
right. And I think the thing that I thought there was 2 things I thought were interesting about this is one was that I haven't seen Michael Jordan do any kind of like media commercial television. I mean, he's been like on TV a few times during basketball games and stuff, but to see him in a commercial again, because my youth was filled with Michael Jordan on TV doing like Nike commercials, and so I got to be honest, I think it was like a little bit nostalgic for me to see old Michael Jordan on the telly again. He's aged a little. I think he's still got his hoop earrings, which wasn't that a hip hop lyric?
yeah, I think it was a Drake line at one point.
But yeah, so he kind of starts the commercial saying, big debate, who's the best player of all time. They have the same jersey number. And you think, and then he says, the only way to settle this is like a one-on-one. And then he's promoting a football game coming up. I don't know. So I thought it's just kind of interesting to see him on there. And the debate has been and still ongoing. Who's the GOAT? Google that if you don't know what it means. I'm not going to tell you.
If they
Most
Google
people know what
goat,
the goat means.
then it's just going to show a barnyard animal.
Okay, Google GOAT with the context of Michael Jordan. Google what does GOAT mean, and then put Michael Jordan. I'm helping you Google. So I thought it'd be an interesting question to put out there. Steven, okay, first of all, who's gonna win that one-on-one right now with Michael Jordan being 50, whatever, and LeBron right now still playing in the NBA?
LeBron James.
Okay, Michael in his prime, LeBron in his prime. Who wins it?
1-on-1, I'd still take LeBron.
Give me a rundown of that scenario. Why? Real quick.
I think he, obviously Jordan in his time was good at getting to the basket. I think LeBron is a stronger player than Jordan, and I think he could kind of play bully ball in 1-on-1, and I don't see him ever not scoring.
Okay, I think that's fair. We don't have much time, but I want to ask, in order for Michael to win now against LeBron, what kind of tricks do you think he need to pull?
Well, you already told me an idea.
There's the end of that 3 minutes.
Oh, we're done.
No, you can't end with you already told me an idea.
Well, you said one arm time behind his back. I think that probably would still go in LeBron's favor right now as if a 53-year-old Michael Jordan.
I'd really like to see that. I wish that could happen. There's no way that Michael would ever play him or even in any situation be involved in something like that because
maybe if
he already so good.
I think it'd be pretty fair if LeBron wasn't allowed to jump, he wasn't allowed to leave the ground other than on 2 feet at once. Obviously, he could leave the ground to move with 1 foot, but if he's not allowed to have 2 feet off the ground at the same time,
right?
Maybe that'd be fair.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks.
No, I think Jordan would win that, but.
Oh, I thought you were saying that's the only way that Jordan could win, because that's kind of what I asked you.
Okay, yeah, that's a way Jordan could win.
Okay.
But it would still be a spectacle.
All right, so the shot clock ran out on that one. We're going to start the new shot clock on subject number dos, which is...
resting players.
Resting players. What do you mean by that?
I don't know. You thought of the topic.
Yeah, but I think you know what I mean.
No, I think you brought up Kawhi Leonard specifically. He's not playing back-to-backs. He came off an injury in the offseason, but he's supposedly healthy now. And you're just saying, obviously the NBA has more of a culture that you rest your players on back-to-backs. Some teams just rest their stars in back-to-backs regardless, whether they're coming back to an injury or not. And you were also saying Kawhi maybe requested this from the coaching staff, and it's sort of maybe how they a way to keep him. Is that why they're doing it? Because obviously his injury and how it was treated by the Spurs seemed to play a big part in him not wanting to be there anymore.
Right. So I think
his team was criticizing him not playing it at some points last year.
Right. So is this kind of the Raptors' way of saying, we'll do whatever you want, Kawhi. We'll let you sit. We'll let you stay home. We'll let you play video games. It's like a parent.
I think
being
it
too
is
easy on their kids.
I wouldn't say too easy. I think it's definitely a tactic to say we are willing to do what the other team wasn't. I don't think it's a bad thing to rest players in the regular season, especially if you're already a 1, 2, 3 seed. Keep your players healthy for the. I think that was a big thing that Popovich always did. Obviously, he somehow rubbed Kawhi the wrong way last year, but. He was always kind of infamous for resting players in marquee matchups. There was one year he got fined a whole lot of money. I forget how much it was, but I think they were playing the Heat back when LeBron played for them, and he rested Duncan and Leonard and Parker or something during the big matchup against the Heat, and the league actually fined him because they're putting out a product. It's on national television. And
right, and people pay to see this.
Yeah, and I think that is a good point. I think I disagree that it should be a fine. I think it is a good point that the NBA is trying to put out a product, and resting star players in marquee matchups ruins their product. That being said...
You got all corporate, Steven.
Well, it's easy to make a point and then say the exact opposite point if you just throw in that being said.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so I think coaches should be able to do whatever they want for their team. At what point are the leaders of the league, is Adam Silver or somebody, is he going to decide... Here's the players you're not allowed to rest because they're too good. Where do they draw the line?
Well, and then they run the risk of looking really insensitive to the needs of the actual players.
Right. What if somebody does get an injury?
Right.
A lot of people we might touch on this a little bit later, but Derrick Rose, the year he got injured, was playing a lot of minutes, and Thibodeau's infamous for playing players a lot of minutes.
Right. Yeah. So, so that was one thing. The other thing I was saying is there in any way potential that resting a player could be a strategy? Oh, there's the end of that, but we'll just finish maybe.
Strategy.
Answer this question. Well, so let's say they play a team where they might meet them in the playoffs and...
Oh, you don't want to let Boston learn how to defend Giannis or something, so they can
Sure.
sat out Giannis last night because he's a guy who's tough to just understand just by looking at a scouting report.
Yeah, so don't let the team get a feel for how this player is going to play, and rest him in any regular season game against that team until you meet them in the play. Has that ever happened? And I guess I was thinking
that does kind of relate, like how I said Popovich always seems to rest players in big matchups against the teams that he's going to end up playing in the playoffs.
Right.
I think it could be a strategy. I think your star player also learns from playing those teams, though. So I think it does both. So I think it kind of cancels itself out, personally.
Cool. All right. Let us know what you think in a letter mailed to Canada Post. So the next thing we wanted to talk about, speaking of, I guess there was a segue there. It went out the window. Top teams. Let's start with the East, because obviously there's been enough play, teams playing each other, enough of the regular season to kind of get a look at how the teams are doing. So in the East, how are we looking right now? I mean, I guess statistically, we got that in front of us. We've got the Bucks at number 1, tied with the Raptors number 2, 1 and 2 respectively. Celtics at 3.
4 wins in a row. The other 2 have lost recently.
Pacers at 4, yes. Pistons at 5. 76ers at 6, which I think in the beginning when we did our first podcast, we said...
I think we flip-flopped on Boston and
Raptors,
Raptors between us, but then we both had
3.
Sixers after those 2, yeah.
Yeah, so...
And I think we probably both had Bucks 4, but not...
maybe. I don't know. We'd have to go back and listen. But I think that's interesting because Bucks, I guess, have been surprising everyone to some degree. I mean, obviously, I think they have debatably the top player in the East, if not maybe top 3 player in the East.
I think he's the number 1 in MVP odds right now, in Vegas. That recently went from LeBron to him. Mm-hmm. I think partially because their team wasn't defeated, I think, when I saw that article, so it was before the Boston game. And also he's having a great season.
Do you think they'll be able to keep this type of play up? Will they be the top in the East when it comes to the end of the season? I
think the 4 top teams I said at the start, Celtics, Raptors, Sixers, Bucks, in that order, are still going to be at the end.
So what do you
nothing's changed my opinion here.
Sure. Well, I was going to say, we've got Pacers and Pistons at 4 and 5 spot. So you think that will...
I think the Pacers are definitely a playoff team. Mm-hmm. I think the Pistons are borderline, they're around an 8 seed. I think there's some teams I think are better than the Pistons. The Wizards have been awful this year. They're 1 and 6. I still think they're a playoff team.
Yep. So, stop for a second.
A lot still has to happen, but I'm not changing my opinion on the West at all.
East,
sorry.
Talking about East first. Okay, well, I'm gonna still. So I am surprised. I think the Bucks is a good team, but I think they're gonna be the rest of the season a strong contender for the top in the East.
Said it in a Boston accent, so.
Oops.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. And as far as Raptors and Celtics, I know you said Celtics have won. How many in a row? You said 4?
It says right at the end their streak, but they've won 4 in a row. They just beat the Bucks, who are they handed them the first loss.
Was Giannis playing when they beat them?
Yes, he was.
Okay, because for some reason I thought you said that he wasn't. So
no, Jaylen Brown wasn't playing, but that's not.
No, but that's big for the old.
Giannis wasn't playing against the Raptors,
right? But neither was Kawhi playing for the Raptors,
and the Raptors lost. But
but neither was Van Fleet. Neither was OG.
That's not a telling game necessarily. No. It's not.
Their only loss, the Raptors, has been a game that they didn't have 3 of their.
But Boston was a close game, and it was in Toronto. It's.
Yeah. No, we'll see. So when do the Raptors play the Celtics in Boston?
Definitely in January 16th, because we were thinking of maybe going to that game, but they have another game in December. I forget which of the 2 places it was at, though.
See, my concern with going down to Boston to watch the Raptors play is how sad I'll be if they lose in Boston. And it'll make me a little more sad? It's seeing how happy you're going to be if they win.
Oh, I don't never look happy, though.
That's true. I think you will in this case. I don't know. But, we might do that. We might go down because it's also a friend of ours is getting married. I don't know why I said it like that.
We need one of those air horns.
That's what that was. That was my air horn impression. All right, so that's the East. West, we want to talk about the West right quick. No surprise that the Warriors are in first position.
Biggest surprise, I think, is the Rockets being number 14.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. But I know that Harden has been missed. How many games has he missed?
I'd like to say 3.
Okay, let the air out of that one. Now you're gonna look that up. But he's missed some games, and they're just they traded away a couple of their big defensive players. Did they not?
Bamute and
Barry Manilow?
Tobias. No. Frig, who's the other guy they lost?
Well, anyway, I know that they traded away a couple because they had really good defense. And last season, their defense has been pretty bad, but so is their play in general. So yeah, seeing them at number 14 is definitely a surprise because
I guess he's missed 2 games, but I think he's missing a game as we speak.
Right. Because I know at the beginning of the season for our podcast, we had predicted, I think, in the West it would be Warriors, Rockets.
Rockets.
What did we say? Thunder, somewhere in there. Timberwolves.
Timberwolves was before the Butler drama that we made a prediction of them being a decent team.
Right.
I think we said Jazz are up there too.
So what we're looking at right now is Warriors 1, Nuggets 2, 3 Trailblazers, 4 Spurs. So
Nuggets
and
actually
5
I
Kings.
thought would be a playoff team for sure. And I remember on TNT they all ridiculed Charles Barkley for saying like they were a sleeper team that they're going to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think he's right. They have a great roster. I don't know why they're like. I know Chuck's probably fun to pick on, but the Nuggets seem like a decent team. Like I don't think they're going to be the 2 seed at the end of the year. I still think the Rockets will find things like put things together, not enough to be better than the Warriors, but enough to get the 2 seed. But I think the Nuggets are probably like a 6 seed or something. Or
who's their star quarterback?
You'd say Jokic probably, but they have a lot of decent players that are kind of under the radar. Like I remember one game we were watching, like I was saying, their boy.
Their boy.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Why am I doing this? No, I know this guy's name.
Why am I doing this? Well, we'll come back to it maybe.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Murray's good. Millsap's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their shooting guard guy.
Well, I'm not going to be able to help you here right now. Oh, why don't we use computer? I don't know if computer. Who is the shooting guard for the Denver Nuggets? The shooting guard.
I was gonna say Harris, but I confused him with Tobias Harris. But it is Gary Harris. That's the guy I was thinking. Like he's like really underrated, so much that I know a lot of basketball players and I forgot his name randomly. But
yeah, well, his name's Gary. But yeah. So
yeah,
number 2. So I think those positions, but will change obviously a lot in the coming months.
Yeah, I don't think they're the second best team in the West by any means, but I think they're good enough to be a playoff team, and I think
I should have said
maybe Charles knows more than he looks, or
knows more than he looks, smarter than he looks. The Warriors. So I just want to quickly.
I think the Pelicans had been undefeated last time we had a podcast, and they've lost 4 in a row since then.
Yeah, is there a reason for that?
Davis was injured.
He has a hard time with injuries, doesn't he?
Yeah, if Davis is healthy, I think Pelicans are a good team. Like I think they could win a series in the playoffs.
So, did we talk about Klay Thompson's crazy game?
No, that was since the last podcast.
So I'm just gonna say. So again, the Warriors are still by far the most
best team in NBA history.
The most. What's the adjective?
Shooting.
Okay, the most shooting team in the NBA. Is adjective the wrong word?
No, it's more of a verb.
Okay. So what's the right verb?
No, you were actually looking for an adjective. You were right about that being an adjective. It's something that modifies a noun.
English lessons with Joel and Steve. But the most impressive team, the most scary team, the most talented team. It's just crazy.
They're the team to beat.
Well, they're setting. So I was watching. I always say this. I was watching something. I don't remember. I just never remember what I'm watching. Okay, but commentators talking about Klay and his going off with 50. How many? 52, 51 points. 53. It was in there.
The significant
14,
thing was 14 threes.
14 threes, which is a new record. So guess who held the old record?
Steph Curry.
On the same team. Guess who will probably break that record if it's going to happen?
Steph Curry or Klay Thompson.
Or potentially Durant could maybe do that.
Yeah, all three of them could have a good game. It's just the problem is if one of them has a good game, they play 3 quarters. The record could be 17 or 18.
Oh, yeah, I think if Klay had stayed in, because he didn't play really any of the fourth quarter, did he?
And if I recall, the 13 3-pointer game, I remember Curry hitting like a really long, not necessarily buzzer beater, but shot at the end of the game. Like, it was still a close game, so that was like a full game that he got 13. I mean, not that that matters. They could both get 18 probably.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's why I think, so this commentator was saying he thinks because the Warriors are so good and because a lot of their games are blowouts, that before the end of the season we might see Durant or Curry, probably Curry, set a new record, because you look at the fact that they do sit out the fourth quarter, so that means there's still more in the tank, I guess is what I'm saying, as far as them setting records for shooting threes. And the other thing I'm saying is that these 3 players that could potentially do it, they're all on the same team. And then they're not even the end of the weapons that the Warriors have. So they're just a crazy good team.
That being said, I think they could have a randomly good game, and Lillard or Devin Booker could beat that record too.
True.
Like, they're worse shooters than those 3, but
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but there's like, one player on each of those teams that could maybe do that. And what I'm saying is the Warriors have 3, and that they could potentially, if they felt like it, they could go back and forth trying to beat each other's records.
Right,
just
the
for
3
fun.
best shooters in NBA history are on that team.
So it's just...
I don't even think it's debatable. Like,
and you know what? My opinion's changed a little bit. Well, maybe it's because I have 2 of them on my fantasy team. But at the beginning of us doing this podcast, I said, it's so boring, the Warriors. But I'm actually... I got to probably say it probably is because the 2 of them are on my fantasy team. But I think you had already said this. It's kind of a cool thing to be able to see a team this good, because this probably isn't going to happen again for another who knows how many years or whatever. Right. So yeah, it's pretty amazing watching them play.
I think the last time you could say it happened was Boston in the 60s.
Yeah, and I don't
think they were as good, but I just mean they were the most dominant.
Well, I was just so busy
ever.
in the 60s being, when I was a cop in New York.
Yeah.
So,
but also it's significant. I think Klay had 4 3-pointers up until then in the season. Like, he was not.
Yeah, he was shooting really badly.
4 for 30.
Actually, and that's another thing too that we could talk about, and we got to stop just trailing off here because we're already at 22 minutes. But I was saying that, I don't know, I'm very interested in sports psychology. So I obviously somebody like Klay Thompson has the mechanics, the shot mechanics, and the muscle memory to do this. So what is it that changes for a player like him when he starts a season cold and is making like nothing? I don't know how many threes he had made. Did you say up until that point?
It was 4, if I recall.
So he the whole season up until that point he had made 4,
and it was like 4 out of 28 or something.
Right, and then he has a game where he makes, what was his?
I think he
percentage
near
was
the
crazy.
end was shooting like he was really, really good percent. Like when at the halftime he had like 10 for 13 or something.
Yeah,
but then
and
he
then
just kept shooting a lot of them, so he might have ended up like 14 for 20.
Sure, but like
that's
so
still good. Obviously.
Yeah, no, it's still amazing, and all the like what makes a player get hot like that? And he wasn't playing at home either. He wasn't on home court, so.
I think he's the biggest example of that, though, because he has like the record of most points in a quarter where he literally didn't miss that quarter. Like, that was an even more impressive game. And then like he had like 60 points last year in 3 quarters. Like he seems to be the most streaky shooter.
There's something to that, though.
Yeah, no,
there's something going on.
It's a phenomenon, but I'm just saying he's the.
Oh no, yeah, for
like
sure.
the,
I'm just.
the
I guess to me the question is like what. Something clicks, and it's the mind with the body, and all of a sudden it's like. You get into this flow and the body locks into that. Anyway, we could talk about that for a long time and
I think
theorize.
It is just like sometimes you're just having a good day at something, like and because they have so many weapons, when he's having that, he's on a team where there's like, okay, Klay, you do it. Whereas other games, if he's not, then he doesn't have to do anything. Like they have Durant,
yeah,
they
absolutely,
have Curry. So I think like being on that team makes it so. It's going to kind of emphasize that he's a streaky shooter because they don't really need him to be a huge scorer. Like he's a great defender too. Like even when he wasn't playing well,
that was such a crazy blowout that game, wasn't
it? Really.
Well, at least at the half, wasn't
25?
At the half, weren't they at like 90?
Yeah, it was 92 or something to
like
50.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
when you have a streaky shooter and all of a sudden he's on and everyone else is on, like you have a team that potentially could
for him
annihilate.
It is partially you get in like a flow and you get like you're hot and then you just shoot.
Yeah, it's a curious thing.
But
to
it's
me.
also because he is a great defender. He doesn't need to score for his team, and when he is scoring, they're feeding him the ball. Like Curry was giving him the ball most.
Yeah, but I've watched him because he's on my fantasy team, and I think the first couple games when he was cold, they kept feeding him the ball because they wanted him to get out of his funk, and it wasn't happening, regardless of how many times they hit him with the ball. You know, like he would shoot, he'd shoot.
When he was open, yes, but like that game, they were just giving.
Oh, he just shot from everywhere. But so like I don't know. I just think, you know what? I answered my own question. I think it's a confidence thing. Boom, subject over. So let's move on. I'd like to, we could revisit that again with maybe we'll bring in a psychologist.
Yes.
Yes. So let's quickly talk about best rookies. We talked about that in the beginning, like some of the rookies this year, who's stand out. Actually, I think we just talked about that like a week ago. So nothing's really changed, but what's going on there?
Still Doncic, Young, and Ayton. I'd say Young's somewhat fallen off. Like he's still probably the third best rookie, but I was saying maybe he's top. But like I think he had a game yesterday where he had 10 turnovers and he's been shooting a bad percentage.
He's had a lot of turnovers even when he was playing well, right?
He's not an efficient player.
Yeah.
I think he was inflated the last time we watched because there was only 3 or 4 games and he had that 35-point game and 10 assists. So I think Doncic is a better player. I don't think the trade of Young for Doncic when they traded down, like I don't think it's you can call it a bad trade yet because they're both good players.
Mm-hmm. But you think maybe it's still going to show that it is a bad trade overall?
I don't think it'll show it's a bad trade. I think it'll show that Doncic deserved to be the earlier pick.
Right.
But not by much. I think they're both good point guards. And Ayton is a solid center. He doesn't seem to have much defensively, but I think if he grows into that, like he's huge and he can score from anywhere. Like I think he's a great player that complements Booker really well. There's some other decent rookies. Those are really the 3.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
One guy I got on my fantasy team recently on Minnesota, which kind of might lead into our next topic, is Josh Okogie.
Talk about that quick, but I wanted to... Oh, no, yeah, go ahead.
Well, he's getting 10 points, 5 rebounds, some good defensive stats. Like he seemed to do well when Wiggins is out. He did well when Butler was out. Just a guy you might not have heard of.
Sure, and I was just gonna, as well, we're talking about rookies before we segue into the next segment that we almost did. But before we do that, how's your boy doing?
Oh, Mo Bamba?
Yeah.
He had a 5 block game the other day in fantasy, but like really, he's just being put out there to get.
He doesn't
blocks.
get a whole lot of. Yeah. You think he's being underutilized right now? Would that be your?
I think he's, like I said this before the season, but I think he's being utilized as much as he should be if the team wants to win. I think he's being utilized not enough if the team wants to develop their young players and look to be good in the future. I think Vucevic is a much better player, deserves more minutes. I think right now, having trouble thinking of people's names today. Their other guy.
It's all that legal you've been smoking.
Is that right? They have another tall guy who...
Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, usually Steven's on the ball with this stuff. Where'd that saying come from, on the ball? Was someone actually... I guess it's like the balance of being on a ball. If you can stand on a ball.
Jonathan Isaac, they're a really good rookie last year. Like I think right now he's showed more promise than Bamba too. So if they want to win games and they still seem like they could make the playoffs so far, they maybe shouldn't play Bamba. But I think their plus minus is usually better with them. So I think they'll eventually learn that they should play him.
Done. All right. So the rookies. All right, cool. Well, we'll kind of update that.
Averaging 2 blocks though, so that's what they need him for, and he's doing it.
Yep. No, it's cool. It's cool, man. Settle down. So what's going on? Speaking of the rookie on... I'm still trying to get back into the segue. Speaking of the rookie on the Timberwolves, what's the deal with Butler? What's going on right now?
So
it's a bit of a fella.
He missed a game because of soreness, and I think he was interviewed and specifically said it had nothing to do with his trade demand. He just felt like sitting out a game because of soreness, which other players do, like you mentioned.
And that kind of relates back to our earlier subject, resting players.
But like it just seemed like he had... Like, Kawhi was coming back from an injury. Butler, doesn't randomly sore. He's historically always played the most minutes in the league, pretty much, and hasn't missed many games.
And to say just like general soreness is,
and that actually
probably
brings up a guy who kind of.
I was just gonna say that like every athlete could probably say they have general soreness after.
Well,
but anyway.
Towns has never missed a game. The guy he's allegedly saying I don't know exactly what Butler said, but people say it's to do with like effort on Wiggins and Towns' part that he wants to leave the team. Towns has never missed a game in his career. Has the longest streak of games played.
Yeah.
Seems like a guy who puts in good effort.
Sounds like some effort there, yeah, at least attendance-wise. He could be like that employee for the I don't know. I don't want to go there.
Yeah, so
He's there.
when he sat out, they played a good team in the Utah Jazz. They won. It was a close game. Towns had his best game of the season by far. He had 28 points, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 4 assists, decent shooting numbers.
Wiggins.
This is a guy who was
well as well.
struggling all season. Yeah, Wiggins had a good game as well. Wiggins is actually
That's
coming
gotta,
back from some
you know
injuries
what?
too.
That's got to have something to do.
And-
Towns having such a good game. That's got to have something to do with the pressure that Butler puts on.
Yeah, for sure. Because before that, we were talking.
He probably doesn't
and
feel
saying,
comfortable
like,
playing with him.
Like we were mentioning, I don't know if it was on the air just to do with my fantasy team because I do have Towns.
Yeah.
And I was saying, like, he's having a bad season, but, like, if they trade Butler, I think he's going to return to form.
Yeah, and that's exactly what looks like's happening. So,
Yeah.
or has
And
happened.
We also mentioned Josh Okogie. Like, he'd be, like, unless they get it somebody else in a trade, he'd be sort of the replacement. He's a rookie, but he seems to be putting up okay numbers for a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if that Rockets trade for 4 first round picks was real, they should take it. Like,
Yeah,
the
you said
team
that
is
last
better.
time.
Yeah.
And,
But I
don't
think
know.
this emphasized it. This game here, like,
they
seem
don't
like
need him.
They don't seem like a worse team with it, but
No.
that leads to, like, one big star in this game is Derrick Rose got 50 points. So like,
Yeah.
it's hard to say that, like, they
Yeah.
could consistently do this without Butler because
So yeah, that's kind of been. So that was kind of our next. I think maybe our next subject, but let's slide into that because guess what? We're just about out of time on that one. So, Derrick Rose, that crazy game he had.
so Teague was out, and obviously Butler was out, but this is the highest points Derrick Rose has ever scored, and this is a former MVP.
This is after his, excuse me, infamous injury that caused, and he wasn't playing the same. He wasn't the same player, and he.
Yeah, basically everybody kind of writ him off. Like I remember seeing some articles last year, like Derrick Rose may never play basketball again. Like,
Right.
Teams
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want him.
Yeah.
Teams
It
are
wasn't
cutting
just.
him.
It wasn't just. Yeah. In some ways, it wasn't just he's not as good. It was like he's done.
Right.
And here he is having a 50-point game, and that's a 50-point game that wasn't because his teammates were trying to give him a 50-point game.
Right. It wasn't garbage time either.
He
It was
played
an
hard.
Important game.
He deserved it. He fought for those points, and I watched.
It wasn't a Kobe 50. He shot 19 for 31.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and I watched some of the game, and it was pretty impressive. His athleticism, that he used to showcase his speed around the basket and stuff, which it seemed he didn't have as much recently. Looked like he still had it. I think a lot of people are saying he can't maintain that kind of. He still has bad ankles.
He's 31 years old.
And he's
30 years
31.
old. 30, I think. Sorry, I said.
Okay, yeah.
But-
But either way, like I saw the end of the game. I think he was crying. Like he was quite emotional.
Yeah, like I can't imagine what it feels like. He was maybe one of the most promising basketball players of all time. He was the youngest MVP in league history.
A lot of hype around him.
Like I think LeBron deserved it, but he was the youngest MVP still, and obviously a great player. And then those horrible injuries. Like people were saying, like it might have been LeBron hate, but people are saying like, oh, LeBron teamed up with all these superstars, Bosh and Wade, but the Bulls are still better.
Yeah.
Like people thought they had a legitimate shot of stealing some of those titles from the Heat.
Yeah, no, I remember, and I remember watching Rose and thinking,
Even Noah, like nobody
Yeah.
talks about him, but like he was not an amazing player, but he was one of the better centers in the league, and he's had some injuries, and he actually may never play again.
yeah. So as far as Rose in this situation, like I was super happy for him at the end of the game. So they did win the game too. So it's not like, again, it was 50-point game and they won. It was a close game though. And
that's
hard fought game.
Like as much as he was an MVP one year, that's going to go down as probably the most. Like he'll probably remember
Memorable,
that game more
yeah,
than any.
absolutely.
And it's maybe the best game he's ever played.
Yeah. So it was just, I guess, kind of a special moment, and his teammates kind of gathered around him, and they were all like hugging at the end of the game. So it almost seemed like the end of a championship game, but really for Rose, like you said, it probably will be one of the most memorable moments because I think sometimes it's about, like proving yourself, like showing that, you have not just what it takes, but that, for him to perform that well, and it's kind of like shaking off that, what would you call it? Steven's gone.
Rust.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but then I was like, it's not really shaking off rust. It's more like shaking off that dark cloud over his head. That's kind of
Right.
like, oh, he lost it.
Well, yeah,
and
like
fell off. and all
anybody
that.
who has something and loses it, like as much as he's still
Redemption.
an amazing basketball
That's the
player
word.
with like
It's redemption, man.
yeah, like
So good for you, Rose. And
Sustainable, maybe
bad for
not,
you,
but I
Butler.
think like good enough. Like I think he can be a starting point guard in the league. I think it's good they have Jeff Teague as well. Like I think they're both around 30 and maybe can't play Thibodeau minutes all year, but like between the two of them, I think that's a starting point guard.
Awesome. Well, do we have any other
On this, just
subby
basically,
subs?
Yeah, trade Butler, get the 4 picks if that trade was real.
Agreed.
I mean, don't trade him for nothing, but if 4 picks, like I
Get
don't
him out
know
of
why
there.
that didn't happen. And he's a good player. He's arguably the best player on the team, but
Seems like
if he hurts
seems
your
like
other
he's
best
hurting,
player,
yeah.
like Towns is also an amazing player, and obviously they're not coexisting right now.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. So they need to move on that, I think, because otherwise it's just going to make the rest of the team feel rotten. So, hey, Rondo, how you doing today?
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody's seen this YouTube video. It's a YouTube video we used to
Well, it's
watch
gone
like,
now,
every
right?
other day that somebody took down. It had like 4,000 views. I think it was just edited together clips of like the pregame show that Boston used to have back when Rondo and Garnett and Shaq, or I don't know if it was Shaq yet, but like those guys were all on the team, and it was just a clip
Garnett,
of
wasn't
Garnett.
it? Yeah.
He was like showing up at some kind
Press.
of restaurant, or I think it was just in a restaurant,
Okay.
breakfast or something. I'm not sure.
Sure, yeah.
And he just came up and said, "Hey Rondo, how you doing today?" And they just looped that.
Yeah, somebody on YouTube looped
And then
that
like there was
moment.
like a weird song in it that goes ooh, ooh, ooh.
And
You know
we're
what
always
song
looking.
I'm trying to do? Like you should figure out and post it on the comments, because it'd be funny to hear that song. I'd probably try to recreate that video. I'd give props to Guy.
You should
I
try
don't
to
know.
recreate it regardless. Although, can you find that footage though of the Hey Rondo?
I could definitely find like old episodes of the.
Sure, yeah. So you can
Like
maybe.
I
find
don't know what season that was, because there's like a lot of seasons Garnett and Rondo were on the same team, but
Yeah, so it was just kind of like a funky video. It had style. It didn't know that it had style. It was cool without trying.
yeah,
And
Guy
Steven
must have,
misses it.
like took him down his account or something.
Maybe it never existed.
Should have
Steven.
backed it up.
Yeah, true. Said that already. And then you could have reposted it. That's what people do now. It's like someone tries to take a video down. It's like, nah, it's still there, man. The internet keeps everything.
Yeah, internet.
Internet.
Just apparently not with videos that nobody else liked.
Well, that's why I don't take nudes, Steven.
Huh?
Okay, so I think we're done. And as we do traditionally, we should set a shot clock for this shot.
Trade Butler.
Oh, you're going back to that. Oh, that was a
Okay,
joke.
yeah, I'll do the shot.
So thanks for listening. We finish every episode with a shot with a little, and no, not a shot of liquor, although we've thought about doing that too. But this is a basketball shot with a little tiny basketball, which Steven usually loses, so he's now looking for. And he has a little mini basketball net in the room that we record in.
21 feet.
And it's 21. So the shot that we take, that I guess we've done 7 episodes, so we've done this shot 7 times. We've taken turns. Usually we used to have Jeff do this podcast with us. Hopefully he'll come back eventually. If not, it's just going to go back and forth between Steven and I. And he's still looking for the basketball, folks. It's a tiny little ball. So who knows? Maybe it's in the... Oh, did you find it? Oh, he found it. And whoever makes the shot, there'll be some kind of celebration and some kind of big award. Shame?
Nah, just kidding.
Oh, man. Well, then I don't want to make it. I don't want shame. Jeez. So he's getting ready. He's prepping. He's got his water bottle. I think he's going to take a little drink of water just to get hydrated first. You going to stretch it all?
A little bit.
A little stretching. So he's now 21 feet away from the basketball net. The basketball net itself is about... Oh, he took the shot. He missed. It kind of banked off the wall, and it might have... Well, I don't know.
It hit the top of the backboard.
Yeah, it hit the top of the backboard, and it was in line. Anyway, so that's 7
One of the
times.
closer shots yet.
It was pretty close, yeah. It was in line, and I think that's the most you can ask for in basketball, right?
Yep.
So we'll do it again next week. Bye-bye.